Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. We're a father-son business podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And today, I'm excited, and I'm considering myself somewhat fortunate too. Well, I always consider myself fortunate. However, in a different way, fortunate because we're joined by Preston Brown, and you want to talk about somebody who's running around. I had my buddy Jason on, and Jason only is running 14 companies, and you got him beat running 18 companies. So I'm excited to dive into it, man, and talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh man, thanks for having me. It's an honor, guys.
Yeah, so I always love finding out where it started. What was the catalyst? Were you the kid that was buying candy bars and then reselling them in elementary school, mowing lawns? What got you started in the entrepreneur space?
Well, I guess I'll give you the short version of a long story. I was young, and I grew up in a family with tons of love. Great mom, great dad, lots of love, perfect family. Okay, but not a lot of money. And my dad saw this dream on TV, wanted the entrepreneurship. We wanted the life that we watched in the living room on that little box, not the life we had in the trailer park in Kankakee, Texas. And he went to work, man. I mean, he opened his own shop, saved up a little money, quit his job, got all this metallurgical equipment in the shed next to our trailer. And I remember we actually stole an air conditioner. Probably not the best disclosure, right? We stole an air conditioner from a neighbor's
I
yard.
think you're past the statute of limitations on that, man. So you're good.
It was, yeah, I think I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So I don't think they could come after me. But we did that just so we wouldn't die of heat stroke. Working in that little shed, making things for folks. And, my dad was brilliant. I mean, he was a member of Mensa. He was a genius guy. But he, like a lot of entrepreneurs, heart-centered, didn't know how to build, didn't know how to collect, didn't know how to pay, undervalued himself frequently. And sure enough, money got scarce. Mom lost her job. New business, 2, 3, 4 months in, is not raining cash yet. My dad had one guy in particular that owed him a lot of money. And so he was kind of the point of a fight. And there was never fights in my house. So this was something that I remembered. And I don't remember every word that was said, but I remember that, you know those old thick cast iron frying pans?
Mm.
Well, one of those gets flung across the room and it lodges into that little thin wall in the trailer, like clanks the floor. And so all of us are like rapt attention. What the hell's going on? And my mom, but I think all women know how to go extreme intense if they need to. But my mom was also a psychology gal, so she knew how to say the things that hit at the deepest. And she said, a real man can feed his family. If you can't feed yours, don't come back. And I'm 6, 7, 8 years old. This is my hero. I love this guy. He's amazing. And fortunately or unfortunately or both, I get taken with him. I'm the charity piece. So I get in his old Ford truck. We drive up to a house not far from where I live now. And, meet a guy. This guy's all 5'9". My dad's like 6'3", 6'4". He could kill this guy with a napkin. I know exactly what's going to happen. He's owed quite a bit of money. Like, my dad's just going to ask him for the money or demand the money and either get it or kill him. That's just how a 7-year-old thinks, right? Like, we're going to get ours, we're going to go store, we're going to go home. Simple. It did not go that way. I watched the shoulders slump forward. I watched this big, powerful, badass, genius man start caving to this little weasel of a man that understood money, understood negotiating, understood power and leverage. And it kind of ended with my hero, I don't want to say groveling, but it wasn't far from begging. He never compromised who he was, but he definitely gave up on his dreams. And the guy pulled a little wad of money out of his pocket. I mean, nowhere near what he was owing my dad, but maybe $1,500 or something like that. And we took that, we left, and we went down to the Albertsons. I guess it was a Smith's. It's an Albertsons now. And I rode back with a big box of ramen noodles on my lap. And my dad wouldn't talk to me the whole ride. I watched him wipe a tear off his eye. He didn't talk much normally, but this day he didn't say anything. And I knew it was bad. And it was bad to the point where, as I couldn't even talk to my hero, I started hating this guy more and more and more. At 7 years old, I learned hate, and I learned that money was the meaning of life. And it made me pretty rich. my mom being a psychology gal, she used to always say, whether I was in school with kids or whatever, she'll figure out the game, you learn how to win. Figure out the game, you learn how to win. And so, this little question kind of filters through anything that comes into my ears. Has to filter through a question. What's the game? How do I win? What's the game? How do I win? It's not an unhealthy question if you want to make a lot of money. A little bit transactional, a little bit cutthroat, sometimes corporate. If you didn't like Donald Trump, you'd have fucking hated me back then because I was cutthroat as hell. But I always figured out the game, and I learned how to win. And, with that money's the meaning of life idea, and that what's the game and how do you win, it sent me on a trajectory, and I became the most ruthless son of a gun you would ever meet. And I built my net worth. I bought a bunch of houses, built a big real estate company, built a good sized property management company. I think I had at that point around 2019, 7-8 companies. And then I had my real defining moment that made me a real entrepreneur. Okay. And this is 2019. So years have passed, man. I'm in my 30s, 2019, my dad, my hero, this guy I love. I've dedicated my entire life to money. Money is my God. I'm a shit father, shit husband. I'm a piece of shit. And, but I have to go solve his problem. Well, he goes to sleep at his favorite chair, goes home and doesn't wake up. And I get a call from my brother-in-law. And my brother-in-law says, "Hey, dude, your dad's gone. You need to come over here." And I asked a stupid question. And my heart's already sinking in my chest. I already knew what he was asking and saying. But where'd he go? I already know, like something's wrong. Something's been off all day. And I drive over there, wiping tears from my eyes. I've never lost anyone, never lost love. Like, this is my first time losing somebody I cared about. I don't know how I made it from the east side to the west side. Frankly, it was a good drive. And I get there, and there's my mom, this regal, beautiful, incredible woman. And she's like shrunken into something more like Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings or something. Like she's just broken. I can see her like kind of contorting in on herself. And there's my sister and everybody in my family's there. And, I'd always bought into the money's the meaning of life from that moment at 7. And I bought into formulas. I have formulas for everything because my mom, what's the game? How do you win? What's the game? How do you win? So I've documented formulas. I've learned how to scale companies. I've built some big companies. I've never built relationships. And I looked around at these people I had left. And I looked around at my dad there on the floor. And I hated myself. I hated myself because I chased money so I could solve his problem. And I missed it. And I started turning my questions around. I said, maybe instead of scaling businesses and growing companies, what if I could automate them? What if I could take these businesses I had and create systems that made them run themselves, that made them real assets? And dude, that was the best question I ever had. And that day changed my life. I was in more pain than I'd ever been in. And there's more steps to this journey that we can go into later if you want. But I shifted that day. I shifted from love is the meaning of life, or from money is the meaning of life, to love is the meaning of life. And I started learning how to automate companies. It's really funny. I started automating the companies, and my wealth grew exponentially. Like, a company probably worth $500,000 that I had is now worth well over $100 million. And I'm on my 19th company now, and we just started an events company. It's going to be 501c3 charity, but we're not trying to make money. We're trying to make outcome, and we're just trying to lift up our town. And so it's still a company, but it's just got a different purpose. But they all follow the exact same formulas, and so the formulas you're using to scale, you can swerve them just a little bit and use them to automate. And now I get time with my beautiful kids. I get time with my wife. I don't have to be the shit husband. I don't have to be the shit father. Like, I can go and sit in the hot tub. Last night I sat in the hot tub with her for like 3-4 hours, and we were playing mermaid. She got to be Ariel, and I got to be Eric. And so it was cool because we were like sitting there. I was singing I don't know if you know the Sebastian the Crab. And so I'm singing her, and she's singing to me. And like, we're just playing. We're having fun. And I get this compelling relationship with my wife, and I have the best fucking friendships I've ever had because I don't have to stress about, do I put out this fire? Do I worry about this? Or do I worry about this? I come into an office, and I'm in my office now, and there's great culture. There's people that are having fun. Like, I don't know why everybody's trying to scale their company. What they should be doing is trying to identify where their company's at and get to a state, definitely scale to a stage where you can automate it. But the moment you automate it, it's going to scale itself. That's just one of the functions that it does. That's just part of the business. So, like when you can, get out of that startup phase and kind of get into that entrepreneur phase, scaling is the next step. And you can do that with any company. If you have a startup and you go from startup to 6 months in, you can get that entrepreneur phase. There's 7 stages total. And at that phase, with one simple hack, it's going to scale itself from an automated standpoint, and it's never going to stop. It's going to keep going. And you're always going to be debriefing, always going to be having problems. There will always be new problems, and problems are gifts. You get to solve them, you know, and then when you solve them, guess what your customer's doing? They're buying something from you to solve a fucking problem. Like, hello, you know, and then like you might have some employee problems, and your employees are a customer too. Like I mean, let's think about this. Like, it's a different currency. You pay them money, they give you service. So you're their customer, they're your customer in many ways. But so there's different currencies, different relationships, but you start solving all these things. And man, I wish everybody would go out and figure out just the simplest formulas to automate their business. Like, obviously you can't automate a startup, but 6 months later, you can find true happiness, which I think was why you got into this shit.
So, Preston, I'd love to hear what the step was, you know, because the catalyst, your dad's death, our condolences, and I see that that made a huge impression on you, and opened a door to something completely different. But the thing is, you stepped right back into the environment that you were still in before you made that decision. So how did you change the environment, change the bit, you know, like step one? What was that action step the next day, figuratively, of course, the next day that you took?
So I don't want it to sound like that day was a turnaround, and I'll give you kind of the second part of the story so you can. There was a process there. I mean, I was broken. I mean, I was gone, but I was a guy that had lived in pain for my entire life. So pain was nothing new. I watched this family with an abundant amount of love, you know, everybody who hadn't been affected and bought into this dumb idea that money's the meaning of life, like I had at 7. You know, we make dumb mistakes when we're 7. Maybe you shouldn't carry them for 30 fucking years. It'd be really smart, right? Being the guy in pain at that point, I was able to deal with the pain better. So I was able to be like, okay, cool. Let me remodel my mom's house. Let me like help my sister do this. Let me like, I could do things that would take people's minds off it and create like at least generosity moments. And so there was that, but I was empty, bro. I mean, I was operating. I wasn't human. In fact, I was watching The Walking Dead at that time. And I remember such an interesting show. Okay. And
Negan's bat in the background, by the way, folks on the radio, you can't see it, but yes, it is there.
And, when I was watching The Walking Dead, there's the zombies, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, they look better than I feel. And I was blessed because 2 weeks after he passed, I was enrolled with this thing called Platinum Partnership with Tony Robbins. He had this Date with Destiny deal, and I went. I think I missed 90% of the event because I was so broken inside. But there was one point where he was talking to a gal, and she was 3 or 4 rows behind me. I'm paying enough money to be sitting in the front row and all this other stuff. And I cued in because he was talking to her about something that mattered to me. Like, it's funny, when somebody else has a relevant thing going on near you, you're like, oh, I'm not hearing her story, I'm hearing mine, right? And so he's sitting there and he's talking to her, and he's like, I think she lost a mother or a grandmother, something. But he says, you're not suffering in the fact, you're suffering in the perception of the fact. And I wrote it down, and I didn't know what it meant. Like, I missed the entire fucking event. It's like a 7-day event. And so I think it's probably day 5 or 6. And I'm like, maybe I should have paid attention. Somebody made up for this. I didn't. I mean, I tried, but I was inside. My heart was ripped open. I was walking around like a zombie. And then she didn't understand either. It was a gift. It was such a gift. And he said, you're not suffering because your loved one is gone. And at this moment, it's perfect. His hand comes down on my shoulder for no reason whatsoever. I look up. He looks down at me. He smiles a little bit. And then he looks back at her and he says, you're not suffering because your loved one's gone. You're suffering because you expect them to still be here. I broke wide open. Wide open. I wrote down expectations are the mother of all suffering. And I went to war with my expectations. I mean, I started thinking, okay, well, I need to categorize expectations. I need a formula for expectations. I got to figure out fucking expectations. This is my new enemy. So I'm like, okay, shit, where are expectations? Okay, there's fitness expectations, there's finance expectations, there's faith expectations, there's family expectations. And then there's this other piece. These are all needs. You have to meet fitness needs. You don't meet it, you die, right? You have to meet finance needs. We live in a resource-driven world. You don't eat, you die. So family, we all talk about independence. That's BS. Like, you need love. Like, love is a need no more and no less than food, air, and water. I mean, guys, you need love. We need human connection. So family is our ability to express love. And then faith, I'm not talking religion, although that can be a part of it. It's not the whole thing. Faith is your ability to receive love. Okay? So kind of faith is energy in, family is energy out. Fitness is health and well-being. So I'm coming up with these 4 categories of different areas where I have expectations. And I'm winning in all of them because I'm just removing them. Like, somebody does something stupid in traffic. I'm the guy that would be like, fuck you, fingers up. Like, okay, come on. In Texas, where everybody has a gun, right? Like, that was me.
Yep.
Like, my scrawny ass with a giant head and no shoulders was the guy that was like, yeah, you want to pull over? Let's fight. Let's just say if I got a few scars, it's because I've done some dumb shit, right? But I wasn't doing that anymore. I was like, maybe he's having a bad day. The expectation was gone. But even the expectation thing messed me up because, like, Tony Robbins is really funny. He's this guy, and Tony and I have an interesting history. Like, to kind of give you the long and short of that, like, I joined, I learned a lot of stuff. I opened a company. He didn't like the company I opened. His organization sued me. Later, they asked us to settle. I think because they realized they were wrong to sue me. But even that, I guess they didn't watch the David and Goliath story. The tall guy loses. And so, but
I hope you said that to him. I hope you said that to him.
To his attorneys. I said that to his attorneys in the last mediation. And look, I have no ill will because I actually did learn a lot. Like, I probably wouldn't be a happy guy if I wasn't there. And I think everybody should go to his stuff because he does do good stuff. But I say that with the full disclaimer because that's even also part of the story. Like, he kind of keeps going and going and going. Like, Dad's gone, but I'm this Christian and Dad's an atheist. So the only expectation I couldn't beat was faith and family right there. I had one friend that walked up to me when my dad was gone, and he's not a friend anymore. And he said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry." And, it's good to say you're sorry when somebody's gone, or condolences or whatever. And I said, "Thanks, man." He said, No, man, I'm sorry. I know he wasn't saved." And I was like, everything in me, why would you say that? Like I wanted to, rip his fucking throat out. And, because murder is the right answer to that, right? Probably not. And, but I remember with this rage, boiling taller than I am, over, I kind of calmed it just enough because I was like, you know what? It's his religion. Religion is not faith. Religion is something you would kill for or die for. Religion could be climate change. Religion could be Democrat or Republican Party. I mean, anyone who has that religion, by the way, parties are supposed to be fun. You learn it in high school, I think, right? So maybe go find a different fucking party. But so I'm enraged to the point where I probably haven't wanted to kill somebody since I was 7 years old in that room. But it's like that. And I just looked at the guy and I smiled at him. And I was like, "Hey, bro, we're never going to speak again. You got to go now." And he looked at me, and I think he realized that he was going to go or die, and he was in a decision moment, and we've never talked again. But that was sort of an interesting moment. And sure enough, a few months later, well, actually, let me get into the formula of life. This is all these expectations, right? So progress equals happiness. Faith, family, fitness, finance. You can look at it like 4 fingers on your hand. They may not be the same thing, but just like the fingers on your hand, they are tethered to one another. Okay? So if I put an anchor right here, which is where mine was, and I push up, even if all other fingers want to go up and there's an anchor on one of them, I'd have to rip that finger off. Well, if I rip anything off their needs, you die. So what was really beautiful is through this coaching journey, I wind up kind of coaching this guy, and he's a psychic medium. And he's not one of the fake ones. I've come across all sorts of people claiming all sorts of crap, but he wasn't just doing. And I got to reconnect with Dad. And by the way, and maybe people are going to hear this podcast, maybe not. Anyone who wants that, or lost love, and doesn't want some fake bullshit guru or something to help them, look up Justin Terry. Or now I've actually met another one, Lisa Williams. These people are crazy weird with their ability to cross that threshold, and they can understand something that is beyond comprehension or compare, and they have no money agenda, no manipulation agenda. They don't care if you call or not. And all of a sudden I get this reconnection. They're telling me things that are impossible, telling me things that are going to happen that then did. So it's not even could be psychic. And he sits there and as we're talking one day, he's like, I'm going to do a reading for you. I was like, all right, cool. And he's doing a reading for me and 8 friends. And he's hitting everybody. I don't even believe in this shit. Like some of my Christianity in the back of my head is like, you can't do it, I'm whatever. Every single person, he's hitting things that are impossible, He's knowing things. He comes to me, I'm last. He had told us, write down the name of the person, put it in your pocket, and then just ask him a question. You never saw the paper or nothing. So I wrote down my dad's name and I put it in my pocket, and I thought of a question. The question I thought of was, are you okay? I couldn't ask, are you in hell? I said, are you okay?
Yeah.
And he looks at me, and this little strange man laughs at me. I mean, I'm sitting there with 8 different folks. All of them, we travel the world together. We're friends. Just pure loving group. And he laughs at me and says, I know why you asked it. I get it. And I got David here, big man, tall man. He's a guy that doesn't really talk much, but you know what he said? He said he had it wrong and so do you. God is love. Christ didn't come for all the ones that know everyone and know everything. He came for the sinners, came for the screw-ups. He's love, and he loves you. And I'm bawling all over the fucking place, like all over the furniture. I got this baseball moved into my throat. Not paying any rent, it's fucking there. And, he's telling me shit that's just impossible. Nobody knows. I haven't told anyone. And I'm like, when he's psychic, I'm not going to listen to him. But everybody in the room's had this experience, and I'm like last. And he's going to me, and then he says, hey, by the way, your dad told me one other thing. Your dog, maybe. He says, your dog's he's going to take care of her. Don't worry about it. And I'm kind of like, huh? Sure enough. 2 weeks later, dog leaves. Now, even if you're a psychic, even if you're this, you don't predict the future. And so all of a sudden, there's this like healing event that I get. And it's like anchors released on faith, family, fitness, and finance. And, it's funny because as I started studying these 4 cores to advancement, and I've got business formulas, I've got stages of business development, but all these different things, you can drive through faith, or you can drive through fear. And it even speaks to that in your central nervous system. Like your central nervous system is either going to run on the parasympathetic or the sympathetic, right? The sympathetic is the high cortisol, high stress state. It's the shit that cell phone thing you look at 24 times a day, 24,000 times a day does to you, keeps you in stress, keeps you in cortisol. Cortisol is great, man. Without it, you don't wake up in the morning. But with too much of it, you grow old, you die young, you have a heart attack, you have a stroke, whatever, right? It kills you. Well, the parasympathetic, when you get into kind of that gray state where you're happy, where you don't have any expectations, where you're in love, and they call it falling in love because you actually fucking fall. Like they call it a breakthrough because when you fall, shit breaks. And that's kind of how it works. Like you fall in love to create a breakthrough. Like there's not a controlled landing. You don't get to do that shit for all you control freaks out there. Entrepreneurs and control freaks kind of have this intersection, but you got to let go of some of the control freak because trust is a factor. And then you, with the faith of a mustard seed, when you get into that parasympathetic and you start hitting the dopamine, you start hitting the serotonin, you start allowing some of that oxytocin, you start taking responsibility for everything. You start forgiving everyone, including you. You start elevating, man. And everything starts elevating. And you can look at things with perception rather than perspective. Like, and let me explain that, because perception is just like, hey, I'm seeing some shit that is, right? Like, so say I took, like, I don't know, this bottle of hand sanitizer that I'm holding. You guys can see it, your listeners can't. And I just threw it at the wall. Somebody might say, okay, he threw some hand sanitizer. That would be perception because I did it. Somebody would be like, he might have hit somebody. What an asshole. Why would he fucking do that? That's perspective. Yeah. That's you adding your filters on some shit that happened. Okay? That's why everybody sees the world a little differently. Well, when you step into just that state of grace into a parasympathetic nervous system, which this is science. You can go look it up in any medical book that talks about it. Then you can kind of see what is, and you can solve for what is. You can't solve problems you can't see. And businesses tend to explode when you solve the right problems. Guess what? Marriages tend to do well when you solve the right problems. Your fitness tends to really do well when you solve the, holy shit, there's a trend here we should probably all pay attention to. So maybe if we stopped allowing this perspective shit to get in the way, we would become free. Anyway, I think that's probably a good point.
I love that. And, it gets to, and, Dad, I have a habit of asking unanswerable questions sometimes. But honestly, Preston, you touched on enough big things. I feel comfortable asking this. So you talked a lot about like the healthy motivation. And I think there's this really weird dichotomy when we look at performance, right? We can think of all sorts of different really successful people. The one pops in my head right now is Tiger Woods. And he had a crappy childhood. His dad, pretty literally beat that success into him. And then he went forward and had all of that success, right? Then you get this point where these people reach that success and they go, you know what? It's not about that. I'm going to go be happy. They already have all the money. They already have all the success and they go be happy. I think it's an interesting thing where you start trying to talk about healthy motivation of what does that really look like? Is there, is it possible to have that pure motivation that isn't from pain at all, that isn't from fear at all those kind of things? I want to hear your thoughts on that, Preston.
Okay, so you didn't ask an unanswerable question. You asked a deep question, but I'm going to see if I can't answer it even very quickly to be efficient in my process. And I'm really efficient, guys. Like, I'm so efficient. I've had 2 kids. My wife took like 9 months for each. I took like 5 minutes, so I'm fucking efficient, guy. All right. So let's see if I can answer this question for you. All right.
Well, we got to let that one soak in for a minute, folks.
Sorry, I love a good
slow. We got some slow listeners, so let us soak in. Okay.
So, can you have healthy motivation? So, yes, you can have healthy motivation, but you have to understand the meaning of life. And so it's like, oh shit, here we go. You have to understand the meaning of life. Okay, so I'm going to take it from a Christian perspective. You can take this through any religion. You can find it in any book. If you're not religious at all and you want to just be spiritual, you can say the universe instead of God, whatever. I'm Christian. I'm going to say it from my perspective. Convert it to whatever you want. In the good book, God said, I knew you before you were born. He also said, I made you in my image, right? Well, he's a community of souls. We're a community of cells. So that came out pretty accurate. Bunch of little autonomous beings doing their own shit, kind of creating a society. I don't tell my stomach cells to process food and keep me alive, but they do it. I'm not thinking that stuff. So it's kind of weird how that works. Oh, I made you in my image. And we can manifest some cool stuff. He said, with the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Well, the I knew you before you were born thing was sort of like, hey, I'm sending you down there and you're coming home. That's infinite. He's infinite. We're finite. If we were one of those cells or souls in that community of souls, why would we want to come to a place that's finite if we were infinite? Mm-hmm. Probably to learn something, probably to experience something, probably to do something. Well, so then I kind of say, okay, well, what's the meaning of life? Shit, it's problems. Problems are the meaning of life. Finite equals problems. Like, let's look at the best moments in life. Let's study people for 40,000 years of human history. Best moment you've ever had, Cam? Guaranteed. Overcoming adversity of some kind. And that's pretty much a trend with every fucking human ever. So let's go then say, okay, what's the leading cause of death for women over 40,000 years? Childbirth. Should we not have any more of them? I love mine. Glad my wife took those risks. She loves them too. I think we're going to keep doing it. Okay. So and then if we want to go back home, go back to that father that knew us before we were born. Well, that requires us to go through a doorway called death. That's a fucking problem. So what if the point of life was to merge problems with love? What if there were 2 points? What if you could be joyful and gracious despite your problems? What if the entire point was to deal with problems? And so, look, I'm gonna give you a story of a flower, right? Because I'm a motivated guy. Like, I'm still doing shit. I'm still opening businesses. I don't have to stop. So I have healthy motivation. But it didn't start there. It started with unhealthy motivation. So unhealthy motivation leads to healthy motivation as long as you have an open mind. As long as you're willing to dig for perception rather than perspective, okay? So is unhealthy motivation a good thing? Yes. Just like immaturity is a good thing. I was a dumbass in high school and college. I'm so glad I got it out of the way. That's a really good thing. I'm not as much of a dumbass now. Still sometimes. I drive too fast. I cuss way too much. I make rude jokes. Like, so sometimes still a dumbass, but I'm having fun with it, you know? So healthy motivation comes from the maturation process of unhealthy motivation. Like if you want a flower, you know what you need to do? You need to take a seed. You need to shove it in a pile of shit. We like to be politically correct and call it soil, okay? Fertilizer. Add some water. Later, it grows up and blossoms into this beautiful flower, and women lean down 6 inches above a pile of shit and sniff it. Isn't that interesting how that works? So that would be the unhealthy motivation that created that flower. But then the birds fly around, the bees fly around, all these things pollinate, and all of a sudden that flower turns into an entire garden. That'd be the healthy motivation. And so, to answer your question, you just got to get to what are the core principles that you assess as the meaning of life. And I personally believe and perceive that it's problems and love at the intersection where they meet. That's the meaning of life. And so, yes, it's possible, but my God, I wish you problems. I wish you problems so that when you solve them, you overcome adversity, which is another name for problems. That way you have your best moments, and that way you become something more. Like, we're not just human beings, we're human becomings. We are becoming something more. And you know what? Getting rich is a big piece of it, but it's really not the main piece. Like, look, I got really fucking rich, but all that was there for was to teach me what's possible. And then when you get rich, you're like, oh, wow, like we talk faith, family, fitness, finance, right? Well, finance is the weakest one. Fitness, these are all pretty easy to achieve. Like, oh, okay, so if I want fitness, I'm going to find a buff guy, go to the gym, copy his ass. That doesn't work. Find another buff guy that's more my body type. I just need a buff guy. It's pretty simple. Like, follow this set of rules. Finance. Don't do stupid shit. Do the right shit. All of a sudden, you're going to get rich. Like every single really successful person out there has a biography written about them. They don't even have to do it. Like, you know how many biographies are written about John D. Rockefeller? It's crazy. So they don't even have to write them. A lot of people that are successful write their own books. Everybody tells their story. Every cup that runneth over is pouring into other people. So the only point of finance, like why most coaches that teach finance, they're good coaches. Like they'll go out there and they'll be like, hey man, I'm going to show you how to make money, because then you might believe me when we start talking fitness, faith, and family. And then if we get all 4 of these, we get to add that 5th one over here that's not a need. That's the thumb. You know, that opposable thumb is what makes us human, right? And that one's fun. And you get to have fun with everything you do. When you're having fun with everything you do, holy shit, life gets amazing.
So, Ken and I are both trying to absorb it all in, because I'm burning up my pen. No, that's amazing stuff. And where I'm thinking is, how did you shift from starting all these businesses, taking them over, to that system, the system approach, to where they're in automation? I mean, we all know about, you got Zoho, you got Salesforce, you got all these other things that are out there, right? But how did you create an automated system that, you pull the dipstick up, once a month or whatever to check them?
So, good question. And when I started acquiring businesses, I was a pretty typical entrepreneur. I think somewhere between my 7th and 10th business, I was kind of like the shitty parent that kept having children. Okay? So I was not doing it right. I was the all-star, and I was needed in all of those businesses. I wanted to be needed. I wanted to be loved. I didn't know how. I was in pain. So I just kept adding businesses. I was like, oh my God, I'm creating shit. This is amazing. But they all still needed me. And I was a master at scaling them and making them big, sometimes too big. Then there'd be problems. Shit would overflow. Like the plate couldn't hold it all, so it would overflow. But I could sell. So I would show up and make them love me when there was problems. And then I'd solve the problems, And that's scaling. Most people that remember scaled stuff, like you're going to grow too big. You're going to go add infrastructure and all this, right? So while that was going on, I developed a formula, and it is the simplest formula. And I'll send you guys these after. These are all the documents that I have. And they literally explain this formula and one other page that I'll tell you about. Okay. This formula is so simple. There's one goal for every business. Okay. Just one. Efficiency. That's it. That's one goal. Now, efficiency is different at different stages. Like my new events company, because my goal is to lift up El Paso. I'm so sick of people saying, hey, you know what? We're 10 years behind. Bullshit. No, I mean, let's get information that's radical and upfront and amazing and awesome and life-changing. Let's bring it here. We'll be 10 years ahead. You know, we may not be Austin or Dallas or Houston or any of this shit, but we'll be 10 years ahead if we get the right data. You know, you want to build a country? Improve education. Literally step one. That's it. Okay. So efficiency there is go big. Once you go big and you do everything, you're going to find out, okay, this worked, this worked, this worked, this worked, this worked. These 20 things didn't. Cut that shit. So efficiency is you literally need to be inefficient and go as big as you can so that you can measure everything, because you cannot measure what's not moving. Okay. I've got another company. It's a home building company. They're building hundreds of homes every year. To go too big there would be really stupid because they're already doing big. There, you go in and you're like, all right, how do we get this trade to go down on price and increase their throughput? Okay, how do we make sure that we have more supplies here without creating bottlenecks and supply glut and all this other stuff where we don't want to store all this stuff? Like, so it's a different, like one, you're refining, and so efficiency is different. So when you're looking at efficiency, there's three goals of efficiency: alignment, simplicity, and foresight. Those are the three goals. Now, alignment and simplicity are interesting, okay? They're what I call optimization energy. Optimization energy is all about refine, refine, refine. That's like that $100 million company and you're refining things down. Foresight energy, this is this exceptional energy. And you can almost like compare it to a car. That car's optimized. Okay, if you got 8 cylinders or 12 cylinders or, say one of those cheap cars, like 6 cylinders or 4 cylinders or whatever, and you're, you got all these pistons, all these rods, there's camshaft, there's a transmission, there's a shifter, whether it's automatic or standard, there might be a torque converter, there's a driveline. There's so many moving parts, it's crazy. That's optimized. That's alignment and simplicity. Okay? Then you got the driver. The driver, when you get in the seat and you're going down that racetrack and you're making those turns, you are exceptional. So a business is supposed to be a vehicle that gets you there. You need foresight. You need exceptional energy, but you need twice as much optimization energy, because it's build up, grow, then come in with twice as much efficiency energy, optimization, 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 and balance. Okay? Everybody's like, well, how do you build a big efficient business? You don't. You build a big inefficient business, then you refine it down to make efficient. That's like nobody builds a big efficient business. Like, I mean, look, I have several folks in my company named Jesus. Jesus doesn't work here though. So the only one that may ever build a big efficient business is him. He can walk on water and other cool shit. So, I mean, but he ain't building companies, right? Like, so it's not his mission. You don't build a big efficient business. So once you know your 3 goals that get you to the 1 goal, then you go down and you're like, all right, well, what do we measure, right? Because you got the 3 things that are the goals to get to that goal of efficiency. What do we measure? Okay, culture. There's 5 foundations of culture. And you can literally build a culture anytime you want, as long as you understand the 5 foundations. And anyone who's got a shit culture, I can go in and I'd be like, hey, you're not using these 2. Let's add these in. Culture improves. Done. Simple. Okay? Then there's, and I got a whole lot more on culture. I got like 2 weeks I can teach on culture. But then we go to the next one, clarity. Everybody in the business wants the exact same thing. Certainty of success. The employee wants certainty of success that his paycheck is here at this time. He's going to spend 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, maybe even 12 hours a day with you. And he doesn't sleep next to you in bed. You aren't his kids. You aren't his family. You might see them 3 or 4 hours a night. You think he might want to like some fucking people at work? Uh-huh. Yeah. So certainty of success for that employee is one communication language. Certainty of success for the owner is another communication language. Certainty of success for the customer is another communication language. So what are you? A translator. Clarity is huge. All problems that come in a business are there because of lack of clarity somewhere. You can solve everything with clarity. Okay. Now, you don't find those problems in clarity. You actually go to the next C, which is called capacity. Capacity is throughput. Every business has 4 throughput steps: lead flow, sales flow, deal flow, where you're delivering on the promises you made in your sales process, and cash flow. These are 4 steps. Huge mistake every business makes. And it's so funny because I go into like billion-dollar companies. And the first thing I look at is capacity. Why? That's where you find all the problems. It's so easy. I find all the problems caused in clarity. And then, by the way, there are going to be culture problems. Guess where they're caused? Clarity. There are going to be cash flow problems. Clarity. But capacity is going to tell me where they are. Because if you have a problem caused by clarity, whether it's culture, clarity, capacity, or cash, I'm going to find it here. I'm going to find it in capacity. There are, and most of the time, you know the only person in a business who can work in all four flows? The owner. Because he's got all the risk, he's got all the reward. An employee, I've never found an employee, never once, not in my entire life, I've met thousands and thousands and thousands. They can work in more than 2 non-consecutive flows. So you can be in leads and sales. You can be in sales and delivery. You can be in delivery and cash. But we as generous entrepreneurs think that we can put somebody in all 4 flows like us because everybody's just like us. And oh my God, we're amazing. They don't have the risk. It goes down. They don't. You do. And they don't have the reward. It goes up. You get rich. They don't. Guys, they have a different mission. Their entrepreneurial intention, because everybody has one, like yours might be a business or whatever, but theirs might be family or music, or but they're building something. It ain't a business. They don't have the risk and reward. They can't work in 4 flows. Their 4 flows are where their true passion lies. They're buying into your dreams for money because their goal ain't money. Okay? So once you understand culture, clarity, capacity, and cash, I mean, dude, cash is so fun. Let me give you something so fun about cash, right? Cash, isn't it funny? Like you look at this freaking capacity: lead, sales, deal, cash. So it ends there, which goes straight into the 4th C, which is cash, culture, clarity, capacity, and cash. So we look at cash. How many times do we talk about ROI in business? How many times have you guys heard that stupid thing? All the fucking time. Okay? I have no businesses that have an ROI at this point. None. I have lots of businesses that have return on marketing, and I can spend a certain amount of marketing dollars and get a return on it. But if I've invested $100,000 to build a business, the moment I've paid my $100,000 back, talking about ROI, it's more than infinite. Don't be stupid. Ask stupid questions, get stupid results. So there's return on investment, there's return on marketing. Here's a fun one. What about your return on time? What about your return on emotions or energy, right? And then, everybody's like, how much should I invest in scaling? What should I do? Balance these 2, there's 6 returns, and people don't think about it. ROI is just what a startup looks at. That's all. Once you have all of I back, stop fucking looking at it. Look at the weakest R. But what if we looked at ROB, return on balance sheet? If your balance sheet equity is in alignment on the same structured trajectory as ROD, return on debt, which is your risk, you're scaling at the perfect speed. And you will grow like a fucking radical, and your competitors will not know what's happening. Okay? And so I did these 4 things you could measure, and then I was like, all right, now how many things can change in a business? People are like millions. And I was like, I don't think so. So I calculated them. You want to know how many there are? Less than my wife has in her fucking makeup drawer. My wife in her makeup drawer probably has 150 dials that she could adjust. She could be a different woman on Friday night than she is on Sunday morning. Guys, I like church, but Friday night woman is way more fun. I'm sorry. Jesus, please forgive me. Hey, for people out there that are sexually repressed, you should find a way to fix that shit first, because that shit's fun, okay? And look, nothing wrong with it. If you don't like it, solve that problem. But let's go into what the 6 things are, okay? Because complexity is seductive, not productive. If we start thinking about all the things that can change in a business, maybe you can break it down into millions, but it falls into 6 categories. In a business, you can adjust, unlike my wife, who is complex as hell. Seductive, not productive. Productivity gets you paid. Seductivity gets you what? Oh, fucked. It's awesome. I highly recommend it, okay? So there in a business is price, product, people, place, promotion, and last but not least, underline this one, highlight this one, hyphen this one, whatever you need to do to remember it, process. An automated business has processes, okay? Those are the only 6 styles that you can adjust in a business. And so you take this formula and you put problems in the top, and it's filtering through, and it's kind of, you know what, we have this is more of an alignment problem, and we're going to go into culture and clarity, and almost everything hits clarity, by the way. And you know what, we're going to need to address process and price, or whatever it is. Like, have you ever seen you put a ball in one of those little glass things, there's tons of sticks, the ball kind of like bounces around, all that. That's how this formula works. You put the problem in the top, the solution spits out on the bottom. If you look at it with perception, not perspective, you're going to just see facts and you're going to fix your fucking company. It's really fast. Okay. So it's the perfect CEO formula. I've coached billionaires on this and they're like, this is everything I know. Will you coach my team? You'll save so much time. Just teach them how to use this formula. Like everybody can be rich. And I'm like, I know, it's crazy. Okay. But then I started giving this formula away. And I give it away to everyone. Like everybody can use it. Some people started fucking it up. Common sense is not common, guys. So I had to add a second document to this formula, even though I've got like 20 documents already to explain culture, clarity, capacity, cash. Those are the ones that need most explanation because those are the things you measure. You can't measure what's not moving. Those are the things, if you have like 4 legs on a table, you need to balance them. And then there's a structure on top of the table. It sits, it's flat, you can set a cup down. Well, if one leg shrinks, like say COVID, let's look at a restaurant. Let's say they had maybe a capacity issue when they weren't allowed to open, right? Which would have created a cash issue, right? They got the best fucking culture and the best communication in the world. They didn't have any business. So now you have a table with 2 legs. What's going to happen? It's going to fall. So your job is to always make sure all 4 legs are the same length, same strength. That's all you're doing is you're making those legs telescopic, right? And so it's so easy, and you learn how to measure them, you learn how to extend them, retract them, etc. But people were doing the right things at the wrong stages. I have not found too many entrepreneurs that are stupid. I've found a lot of smart ones. And I realized the real industry issue is the gurus. There's all these gurus out here that pretend to know everything. Like if you come to me for business, I know my shit. You come to me for some spirituality, faith stuff, I probably know my shit pretty well there. If you see my scrawny ass shoulders, you're like, give me some fitness advice. You are a dumbass. And that would be a stupid thing for you to do. Like, I'm not doing bad. You know, if you're 400 pounds, I can probably tell you a few things. But like, you could also go to a gym, and every gym on earth will have somebody better than me. Every single one. And if there's one that doesn't, we should probably worry about that guy. He's in the wrong industry. He's probably going in the donut industry, right? So like, I had to make this second document because people were doing the right thing, but they were doing it at the wrong stage. Okay. And so I started looking at my own companies and all of my issues that I'd had over all my years in business. I realized there are 7 stages of business development that I found. Okay. And so I'm going to give them to you just start to finish. Okay. Stage 1, non-start. I cannot tell you how many people on social media, and I'm pretty new to social media. I've only been on there a year or two. And I think I've got 30,000 followers on Instagram or 160,000 or 70,000 on TikTok or some shit. I'm not even sure I like TikTok, but that one blew up. But most people they're asking the question, how do I get started? How do I get started? How do I get started? And so I put on an event and I invited a bunch of these people out. You know what I found? 100% had a mindset issue. 100%. Yeah. And I realized that the best day of my life was the day my dad died, even though it was the worst fucking day of my life. And I was like, their greatest weakness and their greatest strength, what if it's true that it was the same as mine? It was their worst day. They still think their worst day was a bad day. What if I could take them back and find the fucking truth? And so I started taking these people and finding out the truth. 100% of them got into business. I like no bullshit. I was like, what the fuck? We have a mindset issue. This is the entrepreneur. All we got to do is figure out your worst day was your best day and then dive into why. That's going to trigger some people on your podcast. And hopefully they all become haters on my social media and come help me blow up again. But like, actually, I prefer maybe they look into it, dive deep. And what you will find, like everybody else has, is that it's called mindset because you set it. Just like you set your fucking watch. Okay? And it becomes this magical process. Once you graduate from mindset, you get into this new startup phase. Now, every stage on this staircase, imagine a staircase with 7 steps, okay? Has problems you got to solve. The startup has to solve some problems. He has to figure out, well, what is a business? You know, what do I want to do? Like, he has to do some level of figuring out what he wants, okay? So you got to pass this litmus test. If you're a startup, you need to be productive, okay? Like, so you have to create something that's productive. You have to create something that's profitable, okay? And you have to create something with purpose. And what does purpose mean? That means you have passion for it, and you're willing to kill or die for it. I have passion for my wife. I have passion for my kids. I would kill or die for any of them. If I get into a business, I have to have passion for it. Okay, I see so many people getting into business for money. I'm like, you're going to fail. You're not going to succeed. If you take passion out, it's an investment. And if it's going to be a requirement, you got to put your time in for 2, 3, 4 fucking years. Nobody's going to do that for an investment. Like everybody talks, all these gurus out there, they fuck people up. They're like, hustle is the number one thing. Shut the fuck up. That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Like, you know what? If my wife walks into the bedroom nude, there's not one part of my body that's like, oh, I better figure out a way to hustle. I'm passionate, motherfucker. Like, I'm ready. Like, in fact, that's why they call it motherfucker. You know, Father's Day was last week. You could call it Motherfucker's Day if you saw my Father's Day. It was a great day, you know? Like, I didn't need to worry about hustle. If you're passionate about something, you're just ready. So you have to have passion. Then you need purpose. Or, I'm sorry. Passion, your purpose. Then you need productivity and profitability. If you take out profitability, lots of people golf. Tiger Woods has a business. It's a hobby. Okay. So you remove any one of these P's, you're done. Okay. Next one, productivity. If you don't have productivity, you cannot measure what's not moving. And we see these guys. If you guys are on Instagram or YouTube or whatever you're on, you get people reaching out and they want to sell you this or do this or do this, and there's nothing you can measure about their organization. Those are called con artists. If there's no productivity, but you are passionate about it, you're a con man. Accept it. Welcome to the club. You're a dick. So, you know, we need to understand if we're a startup, there's 3 P's if you want a long-term regenerative growth sustainable model. Okay. The other thing the startup has to do is they have to understand I must be exceptional. Because whatever my passion is, as soon as I get to that customer, it's not going to be exactly the same. Okay. I need to get feedback from the customer. Like, look, when I met my wife, I think I was 7, 8, 9 years older than her. I'm going to admit, I mean, she's way hotter than me, but I was looking for an 18-year-old and she was 19. So I like to tell people I settled. You know? And pardon my jokes. And so when I meet her, I knew it. I knew it was going to be exactly as my passion and purpose and everything aligned to. We were going to be bowling all the time. We were going to go fishing. It was going to be awesome. We were never going to go shopping, have tons of sex all the time. We weren't going to have to sit and have those long bullshit conversations where presence is important. You know what I had to realize as soon as I got into that thing? It takes 2. And I had to do some compromise. Like if my wife wants to go to Paris and I'd like to go to, I don't know, Las Cruces, New Mexico, we compromise. We go to Paris. You have to learn a little bit about compromise, whether it's a wife or a customer, right? So I had to compromise and be like, okay, well, I'm still passionate about the girl, but if I want to dance with her, it's got to be to the song she likes. Okay? And so there's this kind of give and take that you start learning with your customer. A lot of business owners, when they start, they get this artist approach and then, no, it must be my way. Okay, well, then you bought it. You want somebody else to give you money, they have to like it too. And so normally there's this minor adaptation, tweak that you have to find. Once the startup finds that, this person's being exceptional, they hit their 3 Ps, they're learning, find out what the customer wants, go get it, give that to them, right? They're learning those 3 things. That's how you get out of startup. Like once you solve those problems, solve your mindset, and entrepreneur, you solve those 3 in startup, you graduate to what I call operational entrepreneur, which means slave labor. Okay. This is the person, and probably most of your viewers and most entrepreneurs on earth, that is managing by crisis, that the world is always falling apart, that everything is going to hell in a handbasket. Now, you know why? Because no different than Pavlov's dog, he got rewarded for something. He got rewarded for being really exceptional. And probably a lot like me, when, look at this, I created a business, I'm amazing, I'm going to do it again 7 fucking times. And guys, I'm not losing hair, I'm gaining face. Okay? It's just what happened. Like, if you're a shitty parent with 1 kid, you should probably learn how to be a parent before you have another kid. If you're opening a second business before you've automated the first, just try that. Go talk to your wife about it. Like, if this is a good idea, she's going to buy in. Be like, hey, baby, our marriage is so great, I've decided I'm going to have 2. Try it. Have the conversation. If it goes well, it will in business as well. Okay? It's not going to work. You need to automate it. Like, you can be polygamous in business, and you can't in your marriage. Like, that's never going to happen in marriage. But let's be real. You at least need to get a business to automation, because if it's dependent on you, so this is where the operational entrepreneur is like, shoot, what do I need? I need to learn this is not a team or a spectator sport. It's a team sport. I need a team. So you're starting to hire. I need to slow down exceptional and add optimal. Okay. So I need to add that alignment and simplicity. I need to start learning some of the customer's language, right? And making sure I speak that. You start building up, and then that's when you graduate into the entrepreneur phase. This is the first part where you're starting to have an asset, okay? Entrepreneur, you go full-blown and solve all the problems in entrepreneur when you have an office, an insurance policy, all these different things. That means the work can be done without you. Only most entrepreneurs that have got this, they've got their office, they've got their team, they've got their insurance, they've got their marketing, they've got all these things. They're generally doing the same or maybe just slightly more revenue than they were when it was just them. So you know what they also got? A big pay cut. They found expenses. Okay, and then they heard some guru out there, you got to buy an airplane because it's a great tax benefit. Not the right timing. You're doing the right thing. Wrong fucking time. Wait! You know, your expenses will solve your tax problem, I promise. Okay, so once the entrepreneur starts figuring all these things out, and by the way, it's all in this formula. If you use this problem-solving formula, 1 goal to 3 goals, to 4 things you measure, to 6 things you change, at each stage individually, you never, you never need to go to all the crazy seminars or hire all the super expensive coaches. I mean, you can. There's nothing wrong with it. They could accelerate you a little bit, but the best coach on the planet is you. And if you're going to hire somebody, and I do coaching, and I'm sure you guys do coaching, lots of people do coaching, a coach should be an accelerator, not an end-all be-all. Does that make sense? I like to tell people, I can teach you everything in fucking 3 months. After that, you should go just do it. If you don't just go do it, I mean, am I a coach or a crutch? I prefer to be a coach. So as you're going into this entrepreneur phase, you've solved all the problems. To get into the next phase, you've solved all the problems, you have a business, you have a pay cut, you've gotten into this new phase, and it's called operational megapreneur. Operational megapreneur is interesting, okay? Because, and I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I became a huge home flipper. I was flipping, I did 103 transactions in a year. I remember the Home Investors franchise, they're calling me, we can teach you how to do 35. I was like, I don't need a pay cut, bitch. Bye. And then I was like, maybe I should be a home builder. That way I could start from the ground up instead of getting an onion, peeling layers back. And then, man, building a home is way better. I can start from the ground up. I can do 100 in a row. I don't have to drive to 50 areas of town.
Yeah.
It was amazing. In my wholesaling business where I was doing wholesales and flips, I did it a second time. I was like, man, the market's changing. The rates went down. There's not as much business to wholesale. Every Yahoo read a book. They all saw Robert Kiyosaki. They all saw Van Merrill. They all saw all these guys. No different than John D. Rockefeller. He saw everybody running out and drilling for oil. So he said, I'll refine it. I became a hard money lender. Guys, my loans are so easy. I'll make your money hard. And so there's generally a little pivot when you get into operational megapreneur. And then you learn the art of scaling. And scaling's really interesting, okay? I mean, everybody tries to scale everything always, and you can't. That's not real, okay? It's not real. If you want to scale, how did you get to operational megapreneur? You scaled your capacity. You added a team, added an office, you replaced. Now, if you just don't increase the throughput, you will entitle them because you're paying them for doing all the work you used to by yourself. So now you need to scale sales, okay? Once you've scaled sales, you do what I call reselling, okay? And that's scaling brand. You're calling the people that bought, finding out why. You're calling the people that didn't buy, finding out why, and apologizing to them. And you're finding out more about what the customer really wants, and you're adding more value steps in. And as you're increasing brand, you're going to start finding out that more referrals are coming in, more people are wanting it. They actually see that you care when you're doing this stage. Then you go to the next stage, and you go to margin. Because guess what? Now your current size cannot handle all the volume. So what do? Raise the price. Why do you think Rolex is one of the only companies out there that really still sells watches at the same pace they always have? In a market where nobody needs a watch. They figured these 4 steps out, and you do one at a time. Once you've done margin, you go back down to capacity. And capacity is funny because you add a few things, and then you go measure everything, and you generally subtract a few things. Not everything always works. Markets change, external changes, so you change the internal to match it. All of my businesses are growing right now, and it's technically a recession. I'm in the real estate business, guys. I'm growing like a fuck fucking weed. I'm making more money than I've ever made building homes, and the rates were 2%, and now they're what, 7%? And the cost of materials are higher. Weird. Okay, what does that mean? An efficient business never has to worry about the economy. There are more candles sold today than when there were when people used them for lighting. There's more money. There's more money in the horse industry now than when people rode them to work. Racehorses are a big fucking deal. So, like, industries don't go away, they change. And if you're efficient and you understand the changes, you're on the cutting edge, you're on the leading edge, you're growing, using that problem-solving formula. Only 6 things to adjust, guys, just 6. It's not that hard. Like, I know people with 6 kids, they can remember all their fucking names. Just remember those 6 things. That's it. Like, so then in operational megapreneur, you're doing these adjustments. And what you're seeing is top line goes up a lot, bottom line goes up a little. Top line goes up a lot, bottom line. Like expenses go, not bottom line. Expenses go up a little, top line a lot, expenses a little. And this keeps going until one day there's this magical indicator. Top line goes up a lot, the expenses go up a lot. I tested, top line goes up a lot again, the expenses go up a lot and maybe even more. You're finding out that there's leaky buckets. You're finding out that all the people you built and all the staff you've created and all the team you've done can no longer scale. So you either need to choose to stop here or you go to the next level, which is called megapreneur, which is true freedom. It's where you get to buy your Ferrari. Okay. And you're going to have some new problems. Megapreneur's fucking awesome. By the way, it's so fun. And by the way, you're never on one step. You're generally oscillating between 2 or 3. So I make sure I put that in there. I've seen people on 7. Okay. And that's like doing the splits on a staircase. If you slide down, your junk might come off. So it's a very painful thing to be on 7. Solve the problems at the lowest stage and start making your way up, right? But if you look at an operational megapreneur going into megapreneur, what you need to do is get C-suite executives. And everybody, all these heart-centered entrepreneurs are all like, I'm going to train them from within. No, you're not. There's always that one unicorn that proves the rule wrong. Okay. But it's a rule. You're not. You have that one unicorn exception. Dude, I have one unicorn exception. It took me like 8 years to train her, and I'd be twice as rich had I not trained her. Twice as rich. And I tried it not with one, I tried it with many people. One worked. And then I went outside of my own team, and I stole people from big corporate entities and brought them into my great culture, big business that ran like a small business where you could still feel like family. Businesses that are not owned by the money changers in Wall Street or hedge funds or this side or the other have culture. Why do you think the word culture starts with the word cult? Because it feels like family. It's fucking awesome, guys. Like the people that have worked for the money changers that don't care about anyone would love to go work for a private company that has the same benefits as the public one. Okay? So if you can get to this megapreneur stage, get your C-suites. They will leave in a heartbeat if you can pay them the same rates. Okay? And you start getting those C-suites, and I would start with like either a CFO or a COO. You be the CEO. I see so many businesses, they're like, I got 10 employees. This is my CEO. I'm like, do you know CEO stands for Chief Executive Officer? Which one of those 9 motherfuckers is the executives? Think, if it's a Chief Executive Officer and you're the owner and there's 10 of them, you are creating such a big ego. Downgrade the title now, or it'll downgrade your business now. So, and that's so common. Like, get your CEO, like when you have $1 million to 10 million in net profit, that's fine, but not before that, okay? So I'd start with a COO, CFO. You might go to a chief technology officer, especially in this day and age. Like, dude, I'm working on some tech projects, which we might exit in the billions right now. Like, and I'm not a billionaire, but it would not surprise me if in 2 years we were all chit-chatting and I was like, oh yeah, I sold that shit to Zillow for $3 billion. Like that could happen right now with some of the shit we're creating because we got a chief technology officer who put together this crazy fucking team that's doing things that are impossible. And like, AI should not be called AI because that shit ain't artificial. It should be called I. Okay, because it's fucking intelligent. I know people more artificial than this I that I got over there. It's crazy. And so, like, I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm like, wow. All right. So then you get to megapreneur when you've got these C-suite executives, and all of a sudden it's still going top line up, expenses up a little. Top line up, expenses up a little, and it'll never stop. It will never stop if you're doing it right. But you have a new problem to solve. There's one last stage. You're only at stage 6. You get to go be like that investor philanthropist if you figured out this next problem. The next problem is you have a new business partner, which you get an operational megapreneur. In every other stage before you, there were expenses, and you didn't pay a lot of taxes. That's why a lot of political parties get to bitch about you. Because you were struggling, you weren't paying. He didn't pay his fair share. Look at his revenue, $50 million. He made $300,000 and did $50 million in revenue, bitch. He had 8,000 fucking employees. He employed half the town. Like, shut up. Get off your pulpit. Poly means multiple. Ticks means blood-sucking arachnids. Do not listen to those motherfuckers. I'll fill the rest in a second. Okay? Here's why. Because when you're that megapreneur, now you really will be paying taxes. And you will give 40% of your shit to the government. Actually more if you consider payroll tax and property tax and all these other tax. You'll be giving 55, 60%. And do you know how the tax code is written? And this is why they actually say the rich don't pay their fair share. Politicians need to get elected. Okay? And I think the IRS might actually stand for I really suck. Okay? So I don't think it stands for Internal Revenue Service. I think they knew some shit. So the IRS wants to take half your shit, or more than half your shit, regulate you, and allow politicians to tell you you're a bad guy. But do you know how the politician got elected? This is so funny to me. He went out to all his billionaire donors and raised enough money so he could get elected. Look, billionaire donors are probably very charitable people, but politicians aren't a charity. They may be a write-off, but they're not a charity. With the same money he donated there, he could probably have vaccinated the whole world. He could have freaking fed all the kids in Africa. He could have done this. So why would he do that? Like, why would this billionaire, trillionaire, whatever he is, why would he go out and give all this money to this guy that's going to get on some bully pulpit somewhere and talk shit for the next 4 years? You know why? The same reason that he will buy a product or a service, because he gets something back. Because that politician writes some little blurb into the tax code. Guys, my tax bills have been so low for the last few years because there's 100% bonus depreciation as of last year. Still is this year. There's 80% this year on apartments, on commercial real estate, on airplanes. I mean, hello. I mean, you don't have to pay taxes if you just take your money and put it in an area where the government needs problem solved. There's new tax codes coming out around solar, wind, renewables, clean energy. There's new tax codes on vehicles. Like, you can make $60,000 a year, go buy a $60,000 truck of a certain weight. I'm not a CPA, but go ask your CPA because they'll probably tell you, "Oh yeah, you're gonna depreciate 80% of that." And then
5 tons, 5 tons. If I remember right, yeah.
Yep. And so it's crazy. And then you could probably rent the shit out on Turo and it pays for itself. I mean, it's like, hello. I mean, people don't have to be poor, okay? And I'm not the kind of guy that'll sit here and say, "Oh, money will buy you happiness." It won't. No, only happiness buys you happiness. I've seen some broke people that are happy. Okay? Money will not make you happy. But poverty is a stupid fucking idea if you can choose. Like, you know what money is? It's like air. Like, I don't see anybody that has an abundance of air running around and be like, "Look at all this I got, motherfucker." They don't do that. Okay? And if you have a lot of money, you can help a lot of people. And I'm putting on events to lift up my town. I mean, I'm investing 7 figures just to lift up my town. Broke people can't fucking do that. What if money was just a way of exchanging energy? When you can go out and get into this investor philanthropist stage, instead of giving it to the IRS, I'd rather help people. What if you just help people with a percentage of money? It would be pretty amazing. So I think that if you're really a creator, if God really made you in his image like he said he did, go create something. A job is a way of creating something for somebody else. I think you should be an entrepreneur. Go create something of your own. You know? That's 2 formulas.
I love that.
Simple formulas.
Yeah. Well, and holy crap. Dude.
For what you learned, Dad, you want to just hold up a notebook and
Yeah. That's right. It's not just one, it's multiples. Sorry, former guest, previous guest, but man, I got to go back and listen to this one again. Because one, I can't write that fast. 2, if I'm writing, I ain't paying that close attention because I miss words. But man, dude, that's Preston. This has just been unbelievable. Sharing that philosophy and how to get things done, how to build it. I love your systematic approach, man. As a I'll call myself a pseudo engineer. I got a piece of paper that says engineer. So, uh, the systems approach is so cool, and I love it. And looking back, uh, the one that just jumped out when I glanced down at my page because I'm laughing at it because it's so true, but yet so funny to say it is mindset because you
Yeah.
set your mind. And there's so much truth to that. I talk with clients about that all the time. It's your choice, right? It's your choice how you show up. It's your choice how you let something react to you or have an effect on you or anything like that. It's a mindset. And I'm looking at my fictitious dial here on the screen, learning it and measuring it. So yeah, that's awesome. Camden, how
Yeah,
about you?
I
What'd
think
you learn?
there's a really interesting one. Preston, you're talking about like entrepreneurs and being smart people, but then trying to outsmart problems that they don't need to outsmart necessarily, and like creating extra problems. Like with Dad, we've talked about on the show before. We called it problem solving fever. You get so good at solving the problem, you just run to the next one and keep solving it without even asking yourself whether you should be solving it. But I kind of had a light bulb moment. Thinking back to yes, Dad, of course, the rugby pitch. Thinking about coaching. And especially with U of A at the higher level, I have so many smart rugby players. And how often I have to go to them, shake them by the jersey a little bit and say, dude, just go do that. Like, I don't need you to outsmart this. I need you to go hit that guy. I need you to go hit whatever it is. Because a lot of the time you need that simplicity of just finding the basic thing and just go put your energy into it. Don't try to outsmart every problem because a lot of them you can use a dumb solution on it. It'll probably work too. Or I guess simple solution is probably better than dumb solution.
Preston, how about you? What'd you learn, man?
Honestly, I've been staring at your hat the whole time, Otis, and I've been having lots of work on purpose. I think you want a better life, you got to ask better questions. And you've got this hat that says tribe plus purpose. And and I've been really good at engaging my entire company on my financial purposes, but now that I've started getting into philanthropy a lot heavier, that hat has been triggering me this entire time. Like, what if I could pull, whether it's my work tribe, my friends, my peers, it's the same concept, no different than there's a lot of similarities between marriage and business. And I feel like your hat for me this entire time has been like the invention of fire or the wheel. And I'm like, fuck, I think most days I'm kind of smart, but I feel a little stupid because that one seems obvious and I just missed it. And that hat has been like staring at me this whole time. And I'm like, because I've been on like, how do I lift my city? And I'm not engaging my tribe. And like, and so, I mean, maybe a little simple thing, but I was just like, oh. And sometimes you overthink everything, and the small things are like, whoa.
It's funny. You talk about epiphanies, and you're like, it's such a simple thing. Have you ever heard a complicated epiphany? I feel like it's always a really simple thing like that.
Oh shit, that's good. That's good. No, I have never heard a complicated epiphany.
I might have to write that. I might have learned two things.
There we go.
Cam.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, Preston. Glad my hat was talking to you. Good thing I put the clean one on too, so you can actually read it. Hey, Preston, how do folks find you, hook up with you, see what you got going on next? Help grow El Paso, Texas. I almost said county because I live in El Paso County, but you're in El Paso, Texas.
Well, next time you're in El Paso, Texas, you should come out here. We'll do lunch.
All right.
Go to my website, www.theprestonbrown.com. It's got all my social medias. Connect with me anywhere there. Or you want to check out what we're doing around the world. I've got a crazy travel coaching group, high net worth events deal, and you can check that one out at YBL, or I guess www.ybl, for your best life, but yblnow.com. either one of those two websites, and yeah, I'd love to engage with you. We put all this content on social media too, so if it helps you, please share it, like it, throw it out there, tag somebody in it. If somebody needs something, like, please tag them in it. Like, one thing fun about everything is once you get to a certain level, I mean, you don't need more. You still want to play. Like, you can be the chess master. You still want to play chess, right? But you don't need more. So you just start giving it away. Like, I give more trade secrets away to my competitors here locally than people are like, you're dumb. I'm like, no, I'm rich. It's different. It's like dumb, but dumb's before you're rich.
Love it.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and you know what? Is there really competition?
Never. There's no such thing. There's collaboration.
Yep. Yep. That's right. It goes back to that perception.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Preston, man, this has been awesome. Can't thank you enough for carving out some time today. Can't wait to have you back on the show in the future. Just see what else is happening, man. Really appreciate your time.
So grateful you guys had me on. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Camden.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Cam and Otis Show, and a special thanks to our guest, Preston Brown, for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to pass along to someone else so they can enjoy it too. Make sure to follow the Cam and Otis Show on Facebook and Instagram. And you can watch full videos of the show on our YouTube page. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button too. As always, the full archive of our episodes is available at www.camandotisshow.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.